Well, this work is called Dataplex Economy. What you're seeing, quite literally, is the stock market in real time. But not in terms of numbers and graphs, but as a visualization of that into a cityscape. The piece in its first iteration was launched in 2009. I was asked to create a piece for a big show in Madrid that was looking at capitalist, post-capitalist structures. And of course, during the financial crash, I wanted people to actually be able to see the data differently, to understand kind of things that were kind of going on. So what this piece does is it actually takes one very specific data set from the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Index. Now, why did I pick that? For me, historically, the Dow Jones is what we think of when we think of the market internationally. It's the top 30 US companies, but oddly enough, if you go into any sort of Western newsroom and they're talking about the market economics, they will actually show the Dow Jones graph for the day. It's just kind of a given. Even though I have a lot of friends that work on Wall Street, they say that the Dow Jones is no longer a good metric of financial sort of stability or instability, what have you. But culturally, it's what we kind of associate with. So I guess that brings up a first point. For me as an artist, I'm interested in using a data set that has some kind of cultural meaning attached to it. It is not data for data's sake. So taking that index and then using that as the sole basis to create this city. A city that here we can see, this is all, I should say, being rendered in real time. None of this is pre-done, so it's not linear, not video. We cannot predict it because we cannot predict the market. Every one of those 30 companies is represented in that cityscape. You have cues according to normal sort of financial visualization. Blues are high, reds are low. Grayscales are present time, and the piece tracks back from right now to 5 days in the past. So you see ghosted structures sort of disappearing. What that is you can see the time lag. So again, if you were looking at this in numeric form, you would see a range of numbers. Here you actually see a range of colors, and you see also different transparencies. So it is a one-to-one relationship between the data and the end output artifact. And that's something that is very important to me, because I believe in, not that data or big data is any truth, but I always like to be factual. I would say that there's certainly, in this particular show, there was one obvious provocation that I wanted to throw out. When I was working on the text about the show with Kat, she had used the adjective interactive. And at first, I was thinking, I was like, well, it's not going to be what people think of interactive digital art, i.e. point and click, or sort of move your hand and something happens. I said, but no, I'm happy with that, because it is interactive. But it's not interactive in the way people think. This city changes in real time. Every person on this planet that purchases something, consumes something, feeds into the market in some small, infinitesimal way, it does affect this city. Every user of Twitter, contributes to the top 10 list. Our media pollution, the other pieces, the news media, of course, we're all creating the news, the history in real time. The two pieces back at that end of the gallery, one is called Data Flower, which is from people uploading pictures of flowers to Flickr and tagging the flower. The other one is called Data Storm, which is actually storms that are made with storms, but again, we affect the weather, global warming. So everything in here is interactive, but just not how we normally think of interactivity. And for me, that was actually a very important concept to get across, because with my research post at King's, myself and others were doing a lot of work on sort of big data. And often when I get called to sort of speak about big data, because it's one of the buzzwords in the media, what I like to say to people is that we need to actually think more about our data footprint, about what we are giving out. If you think about, for example, most people think, big data, large, the LHC, the large increment write-up. Yes, that's really big data. But big data is also in things like your Sainsbury's loyalty card or your Tesco shopping cart. Every time you swipe that, the data you're giving away, every time you purchase something from Amazon, every time you post something on Facebook, that's interactivity. But
so
it's
you're
not
trying to say that
people think the decision was, for me, quite simple. I think that often with technology-based practice, there's this tendency to mystify, and I'm really not into that. I like to demystify, to actually show a process. I often think that people trying to make something mystical is just, well, hiding the fact that there isn't much to the work. Whereas for me, I think that a lot of the things that I've created, both in terms of the technology and sort of some of the concepts I'm playing with, and I should say also my teams, because nothing here that's been produced for this show is just myself. Yes, I'm the lead artist, it's my ideas, but I work with teams of specialists, with leading computer scientists, and humanities academics, and to actually create these works. So when you're working in such a complicated space, it becomes very important to actually demystify things, to make processes very clear, very factual. I'm a firm believer that things, if presented in the right way, you can take complex ideas, but you can actually put them forward in a way that people can understand and gain some kind of meaning and knowledge from that. That is, for me, part of what I do. So for that, it's actually, the works in this show are to show, the data elements and also the hardware, the sort of everything that kind of comes together, everything that is sort of running under the currents of pretty much every aspect of Western society these days, and to put it on show. And we actually have a tradition for that. I mean, when I think about sort of taking the computer, deconstructing it, sort of putting it in the box, and allowing you to look into it, to see the data, to actually see the hardware running the data. For me, that harks back to, say, a Victorian mindset, where you would actually, in sort of the era of machines, where the inside is beautiful.
this sort of